Consultative Commission for the Transition to Democracy in the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia. Press release. Number 12, August 15, 2024. Leaders and representatives of political organizations in the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, Liberation Movement, working under the aegis of the Consultative Commission, met today, August 15th, with the AGFC to discuss the resumption of schools in our homeland. Discussions focused on community safety and the need to build consensus on issues that affect the well-being of our people. In this regard, the leaders, considering that the people of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, are distinct from the people of La République du Cameroon and must evolve differently. Mindful of the way school resumption has been conducted on our territory ever since La République du Cameroon declared war on our people and invaded our homeland with its genocidal forces. Mindful of the specificities of our communities, as has been seen in previous school resumptions, and the challenges parents face, etc., resolved that school resumption in the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, will begin from September 17, 2024, but not later than October 2nd, 2024. Reiterated that sending children to school is the prerogative of parents who must assess the security situation of their environment before doing so. Upheld the ban on the flag and national anthem of La République du Cameroon in all academic institutions in the Southern Cameroons and Bazonia. Urged all parents and heads of institutions to scrupulously respect the foregoing edict in the best interest of our children and our collective fight for freedom. Pledged to continue consulting to evolve a fulsome policy that will lay a clear vision for the educational future of our children and disentangle our educational system from La République du Cameroon's colonial grip. Signed, McFarlane Joe. Signed, Phantom Niba, CC, Cho Ayaba/Ambazonia Governing Council, Chris Anu/Interim Government, Ebenezer Akwanga/African People's Liberation Movement, Elvis Comida/Southern Cameroons National Council, Florentine Fonch/Republic of Ambazonia, I am Marianta/Interim Government, Jay Taylor/Ambazonia Coalition Team.
I want to use this opportunity for thank the leaders away when our stakeholders where they be there out for the meeting, the righteous thing where they do them. But I give one advice for the leaders if me be the talk yesterday, I have to talk. Now for rebuke and for tell them say somebody like Cho Ayaba Lucas, a come with Samuel Sako, people then there for this struggle where they no go change. So I want just send this audio for outside for remind una. Say if una get prophet somewhere, if una get somebody who una want go find out, una want go na for Ngambe, una want go na for Mexican house, Cho Ayaba Lucas, Ake of C, people them way they day as they disguise people the way they day behind this struggle for destroy the quest of Southern Cameroon, they no go ever change. So which way the stakeholder they're supposed to do an authority? Una consult ground zero, una know which way ground zero then one time. Una know which way diasporas them they one time. Una mash fire. Make them, may United Nations they know which way Southern Cameroonians they one time. Now other one time so. But for the ground standing people the way they call themselves traditional leaders, they don't be doomed. Because so that their small space where they say sometimes they wear cap, nobody no will ever put their cap on top their head. That cap go remain on top their heads. Some of them they see themselves like say sometimes they be kings and queen. May they remain for that their high horse. Now only the good leaders the way they respect themselves and they deal with the people then. We don't go get blessing for the same ground zero. I rest my case for you. Kudos for the one the way they respect, they comport themselves. But for anybody for say sometime when I go say Cho Ayaba Lucas, Ake of C, the people the way they mean for destroy this struggle, they go ever change when I lie. Now a prophecy breakthrough, this struggle go end. Una remember these words. Una keep this audio somewhere. They no go ever change.
Executive Office, Ambazonia Governing Council, August 16, 2024. Press release. Ambazonia School Resumption. October 2nd is the designated date for the resumption of schools within the territory of Ambazonia. This has been a pattern in the last 3 years. The exception is the state of Bui, which follows a January resumption. Any changes to these dates will be communicated to our people a year in advance to enable parents and sponsors to adequately prepare for the transition. Following my announcement to speak yesterday, my office was contacted by the Consultative Commission for an urgent meeting before my outing. I suspended my outing and pushed it to today. My team, including the Secretary for Education and Chair of the Ambazonia Board, attended the meeting. We were informed that the Commission had decided on a date in September for school resumption. We disagreed with any September commencement and concluded that we should go our separate ways in terms of commencement and continue consultations. The press release by the Commission is deceptive and smack of bad faith, damages trust, and continues to perpetuate the attitude of bad faith actors whose actions, agendas continue to undermine trust and confidence in collaboration. I urge our people to respect the October 2nd commencement date and to avoid any schools within the month of September. We must totally depart from the enemy's agenda-setting scheme designed to legitimize its fraud in Ambazonia, and we must believe in our designs, our institutions, and its architect. Cameroon shall never be a reference in anything we do. Signed, Dr. Lucas Cho Ayaba, President, Ambazonia Governing Council.
The method was considered to be too hard and harsh, but this was just meant to encourage them to come back.
When you say government teachers are complacent, does it mean that they don't teach at the regrouping centers? Because we are made to understand that no government school, either at the basic level or secondary education level, has a single learner ever since the crisis started escalating in September 2017 till date.
No, I think this is not true, because if you go to the regrouping centers, you will see...
We're talking about the schools. Is there a single school in Goketunjia division? I mean a government primary school or government secondary or high school or government technical high school that has had a single student or pupil ever since the crisis started escalating, Mr. Esdio?
Yes, we have a few of them that struck a deal with the community and struck a deal with the proponents of boycott, that is, these armed separatist groups. I can quote you an example. In Bambalang, the government schools were all on primary, secondary, and you are aware of the fact that Bambalang was a notorious active zone in terms of separatist action. But surprisingly, some government primary schools in Bambalang were operational. Secondary schools were operational. I'm giving you just an example. It's just to tell you that apart from the regrouping center, we had 1 or 2 schools dotted here and there where teachers came, though timid, and classes went on.
Who takes the blame then? Is it the pupils and students who are not coming to school, or the teachers who are not there to maybe teach empty classrooms?
The blame is collective. The teachers are the first to be blamed, because if they were in school, the parents will send their children to school. But on the basis of fear caused by atrocities, they have not been coming. So they have to be blamed. The fear and terror with some is genuine, but with a large majority of them, it's a hide and seek game which they are playing. Some even encourage armed groups to come out with threatening and intimidating messages directed to government school teachers. And they use it as a pretext because they need some free time, they need some liberty to go and carry out their part-time jobs in safer areas. You will agree with me that a good number of evening classes in safer areas are being run by government school teachers. That is, on top of their salaries, they are doing part-time jobs, and they need that freedom to go and do it. So they encourage the instability, they are complicit to the insecurity which is going on, and they use it as a pretext to be free.
Mr. Esdio,
yes.
How do you explain the fact that schools in Ndop Town are not functioning effectively?
They have not been functioning because of some of the factors which I gave you. because of the issue of enclavement. Most of these
I'm talking about Dogtown. We have major schools in Dogtown. We are told no child has set foot on the school campuses since September 2017.
Yes, I will give you examples of some of these schools. GPHS, Government Bilingual High School in Dog, which is not functional up to date. Despite all the threats, it's not only that one. Government Technical High School is also part of it, and the other government secondary schools which are around insistently pleaded to allow their schools go operational at the regrouping center where there is security. We replied by insisting on providing security services in their school campuses. But these head teachers have been very, very adamant to plead that they will remember in the regrouping centers. But we have adopted a different approach this year. We have taken a joint resolution with the teachers, with the head teachers, principals, in our coordination meeting that they are going autonomous. Each school has to open the door, come rain, come sun. We will no more have regrouping centers for this coming year. And any school that does not open its door is tantamount to closing down the school.
Don't you think that is in a way exposing the teachers to danger?
I don't think so, because the mentality has long changed.
But you remember quite well that just last academic year, when some school officials were returning from coordination meetings, some of them were kidnapped, taken to the bush, and their families had to pay huge ransoms. We hear of all sorts of atrocities being committed there. Don't you think that the teachers are being exposed to danger?
I will tell you why I think the mentality has changed. When we carried out our campaign drive of cleaning up these abandoned school campuses, we mobilized the population and those who came in their life.
Bazonia.
And I want to be very clear. You see, when you are staying in your own house and you are being punished, you are being maltreated, you will feel the pain. The type of things that you cannot do in your own house, you can do it in somebody else's own house. You can go to somebody else's own house, you clean the toilet, you do all types of things to get money. In your house, if they ask you to do that, it is going to be like they are punishing you. What am I trying to say? If La République du Cameroon is persecuting our people, does it mean we too should act in that persecution? In the name that no, La République is persecuting them, so we can take any type of decision, even if it is going to pain them or not? Does that make sense? What is the logic in it? The people are they are the reason why we are in this thing. If they are the reason, every time we sit and think, it should be, how can we do something that will make them a little bit happy under this stress, happy under these difficulties? How can we make them see something and see us differently from those who have been persecuting us? To say truly, we need our own land, because if we have our own land, the way we are acting is going to be better than the way these other people are acting with us. So it's not even something somebody should come here and raise it up. Does it mean because the Republic is punishing our people, killing them, chasing children from school and raping them, we too should go and do the same thing? And say if the enemy is doing that to that same people, the same thing. No, we need to act. We need to act better. They are our people. They are our people. They are for the reason we are fighting. They are for the reason we are sacrificing our energy, our time, and every other thing. So when we want to take a decision, that is what we are saying. We cannot even stop some groups, because these things are done on papers and Facebook and WhatsApp. But we are saying that it has to stop for the good of the struggle. When you want to decide on something, ask yourself, what is the negative consequences of this decision? I've given one here. When you ask people to pay taxes, you give them receipt. Then GMI, gendarmes and military come and arrest them because they discover that they have paid taxes to you without receipt. Where are you to protect them? Because that's the reason you collect taxes. You are the authority. You are claiming that you are the authority. You are running them. They pay taxes to you. Where are you when the gendarmes, the army, the military and the terrorists are attacking those people, arresting them, locking them up and asking for money? Where are you to defend them? Were you able to think out that this will be the consequences of the suffering of these people if we impose this thing this way? Were you able to sit with the other leaders to find out how you can find a way where the people can contribute without you putting them at risk? Or you were just looking at the money, not looking at the humans who are behind that money that you are collecting from them? And then they face the consequences. And then we will say that, oh no, because it is war, since the Republic is doing this, we don't care, whatever happens, it is a consequence. No, that word consequences of war is totally wrong. When you know exactly what you are doing. When you know what you are doing, it's no longer the consequences of war, it is criminality. When you tell people to change the colors of their taxi, who runs the road? Where did they register the taxi? You want them to change the color. Are you the one who registered the taxi for them? Because the registration is still owned by La Republique. They still go to La Republique to register it. The council is still taking money from them. They're running the taxi, you ask them to change the color in the open. And then when they seize their taxis, where are you to go and remove it from those who have impounded it? These are the questions I'm asking. Why do you take these decisions when you are further risking the lives of the people and putting them in danger? You're not doing anything to free the homeland. You are turning the people against the rest of all the others for the work they are doing. Because they will not say it is Dr. Kwanga doing it. They will say, look at what those people who are abroad there, who are not suffering, see what they are doing. It becomes a problem. It becomes a problem. So that is the issue. We are not saying people should not take decisions. You need to think and ask yourself questions. It is vital. So we will not say that because the Republic is punishing our people, so we too should do things that will make them to suffer more. There is no logic in it. Lastly, in most wars, ours is a peculiar situation because this is the 21st century and the modern world. In most liberation wars we have seen, most of the leadership in the bush with the people. They're in the bush with the people where they can impose anything easily. If fact is going to ask people to go to school, they will create schools camps wherever they are and have those who are with them, who are teachers, to teach them. They don't care more about what exams they will write. All what they want to do is to make sure the children can learn to read and write and take care of themselves tomorrow after the war. That is the first thing they are thinking of. It's not about giving them certificates. So that is what they do. Now, between you and me, as we have said here, we are doing defiance. La Republique is still there. They run most of the stuff. Because even this community school, these children go and register first school living certificate. It is not issued by you and me. GCE, they go there. Degree, even whether it's UB or where, they go there. They go to all of these places. That is the problem we have. So, in taking a decision, my people, we should take all of those into consideration. We should not stop them from doing what they want to do, but we should always put the people first. We know we will come with all logic. I have said it is war. However, war, if the war means you should kill the very people you want to defend, then you should not fight that war. Then you have lost the objective of the war. That is very clear.
Thank you. So let's get some of these hands because we're going to be wrapping up. Dr. Emma is coming, and then and Jose.
Comrade, may I make a suggestion before the next person? I really believe so many people want to speak. But if one speaker takes...
Please, I think, sorry, please, Comrade, please. We still have the issue of the demonstration on the 13th of Friday, 13th of September in New York. I think we need to move to that very fast because people have other things to do, and I've received some messages that people want us to wrap up with the meeting so that they can. Today is Saturday, so if we can do that fast, then that would be good for us.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was trying to suggest. That I think when people should have 1 minute to ask their question, and then if somebody is responding to it, should be 1 minute also, so that we can take. All right. Who is speaking?
Yeah, I think we should give the floor to those who have not asked questions.
Yeah.
And just please, if you don't have a question, allow those who have questions. Don't take the floor and start talking for long. We'll give room for those who want to make comments after we address the issue of New York. Thank you. So I think that, but there are no hands up.
No, there are hands up. Dr. Eppa.
Okay.
All right. Yes.
Comrade Francis, Jose, and then Liman, and then okay, I see Dr. Mwambe, yes. Go ahead, Dr. Eppa.
Thank you very much, comrade. I want to thank the Commission for this meeting and for the good work you did regarding school resumption. I think what I would have spoken, Dr. Kwanga has spoken it.
Dr. Chua is here. I don't know where to raise my hand, but if
Dr. Kwanga has already spoken what I would have spoken. If we make any decisions, the decision should be that which any prudent person will say yes, the decision has been well made. And if there are any mistakes, any prudent person will say that even he or herself would have done that mistake. If a particular group continuously come out with decisions which any prudent person will say that the decision is not good, we should be very, very concerned about it. And that should be stopped. Just as Dr. Kwanga has spoken. This question of school resumption would not have gone this far. That we spent a lot of time in this meeting just trying to address one small thing that one person or one group decided to distance himself or themselves from a decision which they were part of it. This has to stop if we actually want to get to ground zero in a very short manner. It has to stop. There is no way out of it. We are giving the enemy the chance to say they do not know to whom they can speak. We are giving the enemy the chance to score goals against us. And this has to stop. It has to stop in any way. Thank you very much.
Coming, Francis.
Comrade, I think Chairman Ayaba announced that he is in, so maybe we'll suggest that after the hands which are already up, then he has the floor.
okay.
All right, Francis.
Thank you, comrades. I am Francis, speaking from South Africa. I do appreciate the work that the Consultative Commission is doing, and appreciating the leaders for attending this meeting and the press release that was sent out. I am an advocate for unity and collaboration right from the beginning, from the first day of this revolution, because I foresaw this chaos. I have been trying my best up to the last Canadian conference to achieving the same results that the first conclave that we organized in Nigeria, second, trying to come together, is still giving the same results 8 years today. It's my primary concern as an advocate for unity and collaboration, because that is where our strength comes from. I always ask the question, you leaders, because I'm talking on the blood of our people, even it is my father I'm talking to. My father can never replace a drop of blood of our people. So I speak the truth without no fear or favor. I don't want to go far. We know the solutions. I will just say Ambazonia 1. How many governments? 6 governments. If I can start to name them, we know them all. You know what the international community why they've abandoned us, looking at us as a people who cannot even manage themselves. Why should they waste their time? That's the problem you are facing. If we were talking with one voice, we should be in Boya by now. However, I don't want to go far. I appreciate you for coming together. What I want to see, or Ambazonia want to see from here, is to see that you, the leader, the critical mass, because I had only 2 questions. They've been addressed already. I don't need for me to go to the questions. What Ambazonians will want to see is that when you come together like this, you continue in all fields, not only for school resumption, taking decisions and putting the people first, not your groups. You leaders are not here to defend, you are not because of your groups, you are because of the Ambazonian people. So put your groups aside, put your governments aside. Government for 8 years has given us no result but causing us harms. Put your governments aside because, yes, we believe in government, but government has done us more harm. All the groups, if the government could come together, speak with one voice, we should be back at home by now. So I just want to appreciate you people. What Ambazonia expect from you, you know the solutions. If you can search your consciences and give the answers to Ambazonian people, I will be very, very happy, and Ambazonia will be happy. If we can come together like this, send out a communique, the next step again, another leader or group is fighting another one. We know the group, one group that we are talking about here. I don't want to share my experience one-on-one with you people. So I'm just pleading again to you, the leaders who are here. Let's continue with a critical mask. Because of the blood and the suffering of our people, with those incarceration behind bars, because of our struggle, we are out here free. We can sit in our bedrooms like this. We are talking from our bedrooms. We can take decisions, but we don't feel their pains. That their message is coming from Ondenge, asking for food, which we were supposed to send money, but we were not able to send the money. Those that are dying, those in refugee camps, if we were thinking of them, we should not still today be talking of my government, my group, my group, my group. We should have surrendered ourselves together. Say, let's come together. Let's come together.
Comrade, I'm sorry. Comrade, I'm sorry, I'm not cutting you short, but you are in the right place, saying the right thing. Why are you so worried?
So, no, that's why I said I'm in the right place, telling my mind, because I will always tell my mind when this struggle is concerned, one-on-one, face-to-face, when we meet one-on-one. I will not mix my words. We don't need to play politics when the blood of our people are flowing. So I'm appealing to you from here, what we Ambazonians are expecting to see or to hear, you coming together, putting not government first, not my group, not myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, comrade. Jose, please come in. Let's stick to the 1 minute, please. Thank you.
Yes, comrade Chaps. Thank you very much. I'm very thrilled seeing all of you here today. I'm very, very happy. Mola, good evening. All of you.
Hey, Jose.
Yeah. I'm very, very thrilled, man. Look, I think I will sleep very well today because the last speaker, Comrade Francis Mba, just spoke my mind. But I will assure the Ambazonians, all of you here, that I will sleep very, very well. This is what we've been missing for quite a long time. But there's one critical question I'd like to ask you. How often will you people be meeting? I would like to know that. How often will you be meeting? Not meeting today or tomorrow, then after 1 year in the meeting. That will not solve the problem. We would like people to meet as frequent as possible. Is it not so, Comrade Chaps?
Yes, I was just going to tell you that they are meeting, and that is part of the work that the consultative team is working on, trying to make sure. We know that they have other work that they are doing, but they are meeting as much as they can. And if we don't have to come spend time explaining decisions, we will have time to meet more and focus on what the people are saying they should do.
That's great. So as I said, I'm really relieved, and there is a problem that all of us will be talking about. I don't know why people don't want to call that mold in the house, and we have to smoke out. You see, at times we used to ask ourselves, are these people really fighting for Ambazonia? Or are they agents of I don't know, of the other party? Because you cannot be touching people's taxi all over the town, and you want those people to keep on supporting. That is, and with that our word, that word they call blacklegs. That word, the word blacklegism is being created by such acts. I'm happy that Dr. Che Ayaba is in this house today. He should listen to me. Dr. Che Ayaba, please try to calm down, tone down, think, reason. You have good ideas, but you lack reason. If you reason a lot, you have achieved a lot. You cannot, when you want to show that you have power, it means you are insecure. It seems like Trump is too insecure. So he's trying to show that he's powerful. He's not powerful, he's just insecure. So please, calm down. Let's push this thing to boil. Join your brothers. These people who are here, join them. Take good decisions with them. And put it to the Ambazonia people. Then we will succeed. Brothers, thank you people. I yield.
Thank you, Comrade Joe. Let's quickly go to, I saw Dr. Well, Comrade Lehman's hand is up, then you have Dr. Nwambe and Mike, and we'll end it there for now. So, and then we have a quick comment on the protest that should be taking place in September with regards to the UN General Assembly, that we want to encourage people to turn out as much as possible to support that effort. Lehman, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Lehman, please.
Yeah, so I want to start by sending my salutes to my elder brothers and all the family members gathered here. And I want to just go straight to the point and ask a simple question. My question is going to go first to Brother Akwanga. Then my next question is going to go to Brother Chris. And my last question is going to go to all of us. So the first question, Brother Akwanga, today we are in a situation where we have multiple voices speaking. We have disorganization in the revolution. We have people passing conflicting orders and stepping on the rights of our people on the ground. You, as the father of self-defense, what responsibility do you think you hold in this chaos going on? And what are the steps you think needs to be taken to address this problem and bring us to where we were before 2016, where we all gathered together not to support a group, an individual, but to support the Republic of Southern Cameroon and help you guys liberate the land? That's my question to Brother Akwanga. My question to Brother Chris. Brother Chris Anu, before you became leader of the IG, you were for Ambazonia. Today you are fighting your best to maintain your own organization. Don't you think that this war about leadership is what is causing our people to disengage from the relationship, from the restoration process? And also, when we come together as a people, you guys are the one who introduced the idea of groups. We came to support the Republic of Ambazonia, our country. You guys introduced groups, and now our people have been divided. It's not done by the Republic, it's done by group heads. You guys have to accept responsibility, stop proliferating these groups, and let us listen as a people. Let us set up a structure like ANC, which you guys used to teach us about, that have a structure. We have diplomats, we have people who take care of refugees, we have people doing self-defense. Whatever they are doing, it's not for me to decide. But I think it's high time you guys accept responsibility for the things you have, the mistakes you have made, and don't generalize it, and come back and let us start from scratch. If not, we're gonna lose the war, and all of us gonna die in exile. And my last question is to all of us. Again, what is the problem we have with ourselves? Do we hate ourselves that much? How many boys have died? How many people are suffering? Again, what is most important is it for us to come together and raise the funds and the resources and support the restoration, or is it maintaining your small position as group leaders, group heads? Again, imagine that if everybody has to declare himself a leader, how would the society work? No, we need to have structures that designate. If it's about school resumption, we need to have a council sit and decide and vote. If the people who are not against school resumption, they lost the vote, they let it go and the school resume. By the way, I don't see how school resumption or no school resumption is going to restore our state school. So we have to stop and be honest with ourselves. If we want to fight, we fight. If we want to surrender, we surrender. What we should not do is subject ourselves to this constant suffering and misery. I yield. Thank you guys very much for coming out.
Okay, comrade, thank you for that. And just to put some pointers into what you've asked, I think you came in a bit late. The leaders took time at the beginning to explain a lot of things that respond to the questions that you've posed both to Dr. Akona and to Chris. And I think in the very sense of them being in this meeting, put together by the consultative commission, which is not a group, but which is working on the basis of what the people have recommended and they, the leaders, have agreed should bring them together to consult each other. I think that is already addressing the questions you're posing to them individually. So by they being here, by they participating in this enterprise, by they supporting it, I think that they have proven that they are willing and have the openness and care about the people to do what is right, as you say. But I'll leave it to them to add any thing that they would like to add.
For me, Comrade Lima, I will not give you any answer on anything that deals with self-defense here. I have to be very objective. I will not be able to respond to you on that. That does not mean things are not working. You see where I am? You see where the network is shifting from left to right? I am not in North America. I am far away from home with Sheffield sitting beside me. I track him all here. He's here with me. And we are far away, and it's because of the struggle. So we are out of it. I almost died of Qatar because of this particular trip. So I won't talk about that, but rest assured that we'll be able to find a more concise manner to discuss this issue. Self-defense is not a public issue. I will never ever try that type of thing to put it out there. Now, lastly, I want you to understand one thing. The people never in any liberation struggle free themselves. There could be a people revolution where the people rise up, and most often it is to carry out what we call internal self-determination, to change the system of governance. Anything that deals with external self-determination, which is what we are trying to look for, to go back and restructure our own homeland, you will always find groups. The only unfortunate thing is that the 21st century has given us the opportunity where with the tick of somebody's cell phone, you can create a group. You create anything, get 2 or 3 people, and they start shouting. Some even, it might be one person, he writes all the communities. Nobody will care. So those things are there. So we will be able to talk about those things. The rest assured, we are here not because we love one another. We are bound to work together. If we're going to free ourselves, we must work together. It has nothing to do with love. That is the way it works. Yeah, we'll work together whether we like it or not. And that is what we say, if someone is tired, you just give up. So we'll continue to work together. But we will not always be here online. Rest assured you will not. If the consultative team has something very important that they need to talk, they will have a meeting and come and discuss with you people. But if you are going to expect that the leaders will always come online, no, we are past that time. We need to be strategic behind the scene and do the right thing. We are only here because the strategic stuff behind the scene took the wrong care. That's why we are here. Thank you.
Comrade Chris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, sure. I don't know why Comrade Lehman is very worried about divisions here and there when he is seated in the unity platform, which is exactly what he wants to see. and I don't know whether he was suggesting that I should have given up the leadership of the interim government because other people did things to divide the interim government. Of course not. And I also think it is always very disingenuous when people speak in generalized terms. The interim government is in different fractions. I don't need to explain why. Everybody here knows why and understand how it is where it is. If you blame me for being part of it, so be it. But I think I have done the best that I can to keep it together. I don't think there is anybody here, and I'm not trying to project myself here. I don't think there is anybody here who has fought for us coming together as I have done since taking over the leadership of the interim government. But Comrade Lehman, we are in the right place. We are in the right direction. I just hope that you be part of it, support it, as we want everybody to do. This is what we all want. Let's all come on board. Let's end the criticism of the interim government, this interim government, that APLM this, APLM that. We are on the right footing at the moment. Let's keep criticism placed behind us and see what we can make out of this. Ground Zero is very excited when they see us come together as we do now. Even when we send out that statement from this group, I received hundreds of messages and phone calls congratulating that at least finally we all came together to take a decision. And I still hear the sentiments, even in this house, that, I mean, somebody literally said he's going to sleep better tonight because of it. We are on the right footing. Let us move on, please, and build it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wambi, and then Comrade Mike, and then we will wrap up.
Yeah, Comrade Chairs. And the consultative, Comrade Chairs and the consultative team, I want to greet all of you, and I want to greet my fellow Ambazonians who are watching back at home and in the diaspora. Let me first start by appreciating all of the different liberation movements and their leaders who are here. This has been a long time coming, and though we're not 100% there, it is good that we are learning to crawl so that we'll eventually stand and then begin to walk the walk of collaboration and being in a meaningful coalition front. So I really want to appreciate you guys for, making this effort. As my brother Dr. Akwanga correctly pointed out, you don't have to be in love with your fellow Ambazonian. You collaborate with them. You don't. And I've even said that. I remember in the Unity hall that Chris is talking about, that's something I pointed out. I don't have to be in love with you to be able to collaborate with you, but knowing that you want Ambazonia and I want Ambazonia, I am willing to collaborate with you. That is what is important, and I see all of you leaders of organizations who are present here. I see that in all of you, and I want to appreciate you all for that, and I want to say more grace to your elbows. As much as you may disagree and have criticisms for one another, for whatever issue, always find a way to be able to sit and talk. And again, appreciation to the consultative team, Dr. Fontaine, Chevs, Mike Lucy, Mark Gertrude, Dr. Florentine, all of you who are there who have created this environment where all these organizations can come together and talk. Now, when it comes to this issue of, groups and all this other stuff like that, I don't really know what Ambazonians want. Most Ambazonians don't want anyone to tell them someone else to tell them what to do. That's why a lot of these groups and organizations exist. Even if we're under one single umbrella or how things were back in the day, at some point, if something happens, you're going to end up in the individual factions. As a matter of fact, what brought even together what was known as the IG back then had its individual groups that helped make up that IG that were in the Restoration Council. They were all part of individual groups. So this issue of groups to me, it doesn't really matter. We're not the first liberation struggle that has had factions, and they still ended up being brought together and achieved the liberation of their country. For those of you who don't know, go and read the history of South Sudan, Eritrea, our brothers in Zimbabwe. Everyone has had factions. So this is not a strange thing to Ambazonia. So I don't really see the point of it always being people using it to beat up the leaders. The most important thing is that we need to find a way to be talking to each other, consulting with each other, and finding a way for all of us to move forward. That is what is important. With that in mind, I have two questions to all the leaders who are participating with the consultation committee. And that is, first question is, what are you all doing, or what do you think is even feasible given our circumstances? Because you know we're in difficult circumstances. What do you think is feasible, or what are you doing to make sure that the discussions, the deliberations, the decisions that you all go through are not possibly corrupted or blinded by what we know as groupthink? You know, for those who don't know what groupthink is that type of a situation where, because all of you are present, ideas start going in one particular direction and everyone gets tunnel vision and they only end up focusing on the rosy good results and they don't take into consideration the poor outcomes that are possible or plausible. So what are you all doing to make sure you look at, when you're coming to a decision, when you're debating something, what are you all doing to look at it from all angles and make sure you cover our bases to the best of our ability? And then finally, what is your policy on how other organizations that are out there can come be a part of this consultative committee deliberations that you all are engaged in? Because one of the things that we always hear out there is that this is not going to work unless everybody and their mother is a part of the consultations. And we know that you can only work with those who are willing to work, and everybody will not always be willing to be on board. But what is your policy towards appealing to those organizations that may be on the outside? And maybe this would be a good opportunity for all of you who are participating to actually make a statement appealing to those people who may not be here. I yield. And again, thank you all for your efforts.
Okay. Doc, just because of the time.
Yes, let me quickly say that the questions, Comrade, the question Comrade Ngombe, yes, Dr. Ngombe has asked are very pertinent questions, but I think they take us back to the foundation of the consultative process, where all the leaders were consulted, people were informed of what was going on, and then we eventually brought our results to the knowledge of Southern Cameroonians, and on the basis of what Southern Cameroonians requested in the presence of many of these leaders, we have started implementing them. So what we must realize is that what we are doing is a process that has already begun. It is a process that is rooted in discussions that have been held with communities, with political organizations, with a cross section of the people of Southern Cameroons. And so it is an Ambazonian phenomenon. So we are not exclusive. The consultative process is not exclusive. It is inclusive. It is transparent. And these leaders sitting here have agreed that from time to time they will come out when issues like this arise and have a conversation with the people of the Southern Cameroons. And one of the messages that we have received, if people are asking whether we are going to make this town hall a permanent thing, Now, the consultation team will take the matter up with these leaders and discuss so that we can agree on how often the leaders can organize town halls so that critical issues, orientational matters can be discussed with the people of Southern Cameroon, so that at least a cross-section of the people have a clear view of what is going on. But it is important to realize that in as much as these leaders are in here, there are others who have been briefed fully on what the consultation process is all about, and who have been given the option to join or not to join. And some have preferred to go back and start their own consultation. So we are not stopping anybody from doing it. But what we are doing is that we are bringing the leaders for every international outing or contacts that we are making. We involve the leaders, we inform them of what we are doing. Whenever we receive any correspondence, after discussing with the technicians, we bring the discussions to the leaders and we tell them that this is what we have received, this is what we have done, and this is what the technicians have done. These are the options before us. So you leaders, what is your input and how do we go ahead? The good thing is that these leaders agree that it is better for us to make a mistake collectively, then it is easier for us to resolve it collectively than for an individual to make a mistake when others will not be able to assist him correct that mistake. So it is a spirit that has come into the liberation movement, and we are urging all Southern Cameroonians of good faith not to lock themselves in their cocoons, because when you see these people will eventually, whatever the things that we do, the leaders take it back to their organizations. This does not prescribe organizations. Organizations continue to function. Some of the issues that organizations have, they bring some of their ideas and they suggest it to the Constitutive Commission, and all the leaders together discuss, and they now assign those who are to go out and run after it and find out if it is possible to achieve this particular idea. So I think it is a very constructive way. But those who must join this group must accept that they are going to be transparent. It is going to be inclusive. And once it is inclusive, you know that you're not going to come and dictate your opinion on others. You will allow that, and then the decision that we take will be based on a consensus. And consensus requires that you have to compromise. You have to look at other views and see that, okay, if it is not going to work this way, then I cannot keep insisting that it must work that way. So let me also see what others can do so that all of us are moving together. And that is how we came. We've done many other things. We've done many other things. We are preparing for a leadership summit where all the leaders will go, where they sit down at the leadership summit. Some of the work that we have done, they will review it there, and then they will come out and they'll make a major statement for all the people of the Southern Cameroons. Let me also, on behalf, Chefs, with your permission, let me also inform the people that there is a lot of background diplomatic work that is going on. There's a lot of background diplomatic work that is going on. We feel greatly encouraged. It is just that we cannot come and start blowing our trumpet on the stage. The leaders are aware, and they are giving us a lot of advice. They are giving us a lot of counsel. There are times that we kick against something and they tell us, no, Mark, Chefs and their team, people would need to go back and fix it. Go back and accept. Don't deny. We don't stop. We cannot say we will not talk to somebody. Go back and talk to them. And so it is so far so good. I would just pray that we should keep our fingers crossed, continue to pray, and believe that all of us are servants in this liberation struggle. That is the spirit that exists now. We are all servants, and if we serve our people honestly, faithfully, and diligently, then our journey will be a shorter one. I think
all right. Comrade Mike, come in, and Dr. Taylor, welcome. Comrade Mike, come in, and then we'll let Dr. Taylor give us a word since he's here, and we'll wrap up.
Thank you, Comrade Chips. All right, thank you, Comrade Chips. Yes, I would like to first of all thank all who have taken the time to be present during this meeting, because I believe that it is only by talking to each other that we'll be able to, first of all, understand each other and be able to bridge the differences that exist between us. Having said that, I'm sure that we have all watched a certain video of CPDM militants in Mamfe marching and calling for Povia to stand for another term as president of the Republic of Cameroon. Not that we have any concern with that, but when it's coming from amongst our people, then there's a problem. And I wonder if those images mean anything to us, because if we are honest to ourselves, we have not seen this for quite some time in the Southern Cameroons and Bazonia, where CPDM militants come out boldly to make such statements. And do we understand why that is happening now? What that means to us and our liberation quest? Now, the question is this: if we were to draw a graph that shows the support level that we have had since the start of this, I'm sorry for the background noise, since the start of this liberation quest, if we were to draw a graph that shows the support level that we have had from the beginning up to now, do we think there will be an upward graph showing an increase in support, or would there be a decline in support? If you are someone who is managing a company, and year after year after year, you notice that the profit margin of that company is declining, it is only responsible for you as the boss of that company.
Comrade,
yes.
Comrade, I'm sorry, we are live, and I don't think what you are articulating is good for public consumption or for everybody. I think you could deal, what you are raising could be raised within the leaders only, because we don't want to feed people with something that sounds like negative. Is not. I don't think this is the right forum to raise that particular point. Let's take it within us and talk about it. If you have other areas to discuss.
Okay, let me come at it this way. I think we don't have to invent the wheel. What I'm trying to say is we don't have to invent the wheel when it comes to how this struggle is managed. The question is this: when we look at how other liberation movements have been managed, for example, Eritrea, South Africa, we see the war going on between Hamas and Israel. How do these movements treat their people? That's the question I want us to examine. Do they go out and inflict painful measures that cause pain to the same people they are trying to liberate, and yet expect to have the support of those people for what they are fighting for? Because sometimes we have to look ourselves in the mirror and examine our actions to see if what we are doing is actually in line with the objectives of what we claim to be fighting for. It serves no purpose for us to go out and ask for a change of taxi colors, liberation tax, other ransom-taking efforts out there that go to inhibit the support that we ought to be having from our people. Because let's not make any mistake. We can do anything out here. If our people on the ground are not in support of this liberation movement, we are wasting our time. It will not work. And that is what we need to understand. Because we can sit here and talk on TV and pass motions, but once our people completely turn their backs on this thing, it is done. And that is why you see the CPDM being emboldened to come out and march as we saw this past week. And I don't know if we have observed the deafening silence on the ground. Hardly do you hear of the kind of actions that we used to hear before. As a matter of fact, each time we hear of something, it is something that is hurting our people and not hurting the enemy.
And let us forget about this hyperbole that we continue to say we are winning. We are not winning, people. We are not winning. Okay? And until we realize that and know that we're going down the wrong road, this thing will not work. I don't want to come out and paint a rosy picture here that does not exist. It doesn't exist. It is time for anybody who calls himself or herself a leader to smell the coffee and start making the right decisions. Because it's not going, it's not working. Okay. Yes. Now we know what the right thing is. We know what the right thing is. Nobody sitting here can say they don't know what the right thing is. What is stopping us is our ego. And when you put your ego against ahead of what is good for the people, then you are not fighting for the people. Let us do what is right. The leaders need to come together in the nearest future and put out a plan that will bring back the support that is needed to win this thing. And when people come together, my last point, when people come together and they sit down and discuss and agree on something, the will of the majority should count. It does not mean that when you come together with others, it is only your will and your will only that must prevail. Because if we insist on that model, then we may as well give up on this thing because that is not what we're fighting for. And that's my last point. Thank you.
Please, let me just add on his point, please.
We will take your comment, our lady who's raising your voice. Please go ahead. Let's make it 1 minute so that we can wrap up also.
Okay. So what I wanted to say is that we are fighting for independence and freedom. But the leaders, they seem to have forgotten the part of the freedom and they are only going for independence. They forget that even after we have independence and we don't have the freedom, we are still coming back to fight for freedom. Why I say this is because when you force people, when people do not have the freedom to make the choice which type of car they should drive, the color of their car, and you claim that you are fighting for them, then the people, they start seeing differently. The colors of the cars that people drive back there, the people, they take responsibility on those colors. Because when the police, they catch them, and they are the people who are going to pay, they are going to take the responsibility. So we cannot come out, use our guns, use the power that we have, and force people to change colors, to carry colors which they have to carry responsibility. At a point, we are behaving like Cameroon. If we look at where we are coming from, for 60 years, Cameroon, they sign a decree, and the people, they don't like that decree. And Cameroon, they will use the guns that they have and their military to force the people to take it. So when we say people should change their taxi colors, and the people are hesitant, we are supposed to take a break and even say, but how is this going to help us? Aren't these people free to choose the colors of the cars that they want to drive? But because we have guns, we use those guns to force the people to change colors, and now they have to bear the consequences. When we do those things, the people now, they start living the liberation part because now it is not in their favor. I say this because, okay, I pay my liberation tax. I pay my liberation, but I'm going to fall back now because just last month I have to spend money to get relative cars which have been impounded. So when I spend that money to get those cars which are impounded, then you still come after me to pay the liberation tax. Why do you think I'm going to get that money? So I'm just saying that in as much as the leaders, they are fighting, they should not forget what they are fighting for. Freedom first. Independence we accept. So and look at where we are coming from, how Cameroon has treated us. Stop treating us like Cameroon, because when you keep treating us like Cameroon, we are going to abandon you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that powerful commentary. Dr. Taylor, please close us with the yes. Give us the last comments. I know you just came in.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Jeps. Thank you to the entire team. I want to greet everyone who made it a rendezvous to be online with us today. To those on ground zero, receive a salutation from the APLM Secretariat and to the entire staff that is working here. I want to say to all the members that had, or to all of us that had the chance to lay our complaints here, the committee has a listening ear. We are listening and we're with the people.
The so-called school resumption lockdown. Why Cameroon separatists keep getting it wrong, Julius Fondong. I have just seen a flyer being widely circulated online captioned, Ambazonia National Lockdown, to run from February 9, 2024 to February 10, 2024. According to the flyer, the objective of the lockdown is, inter alia, to send a strong message to the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, not to turn a blind eye on the genocide being committed in Ambazonia. The promoters of the lockdown have further added that it is also intended to ensure that there is no school resumption in Ambazonia. There is a lot to unpack here. Let me first start with the allegation of genocide. The Ambazonia separatists regularly make the claim that the Cameroon government is committing genocide against the people of its Anglophone regions, namely the Northwest and the Southwest regions, the same regions that the separatists refer to as Ambazonia. But the facts prove quite the contrary. Consider the following. According to UNCHR, as of 2023, there were some 84,000 Cameroon refugees in Nigeria who fled the armed conflict in Anglophone Cameroon. Human Rights Watch reported in 2023 that the armed conflict in Anglophone Cameroon has displaced some 600,000 people. If we go by these figures from generally reputable international organizations, we surmise that an overwhelming majority of Anglophone Cameroonians fleeing the conflict in their region, 516,000 or 86%, are actually relocating to the Francophone regions, or to La Republique, as the Ambazonians prefer to call it. During previous lockdowns, we saw thousands of Anglophone Cameroonians paying triple the bus fare to flee their region to the relatively safer Francophone regions. A bus trip from Bamenda to Yaoundé or Douala takes on average 8 hours. From Bamenda Hospital roundabout to the Cameroon-Nigeria border town of Ikok takes about 2 hours. Yet, in the days ahead, as the lockdown looms, thousands of Anglophones will be paying triple the bus fare to take the 8-hour trip to Douala or Yaoundé, instead of taking the 2-hour trip to the border to cross to Nigeria and become refugees. How then can you speak of genocide when the very people you claim are being exterminated by the government are prepared to make tremendous personal sacrifices and take risks to travel to the Francophone regions and willingly place themselves under the protection of the same government you want the world to believe is trying to exterminate them? And I also do know for fact that a vast majority of Anglophones IDPs in the Francophone regions were running away from the atrocities and daily hardships imposed on them by their supposed liberators, the so-called Amba Boys. Under such circumstances, the genocide argument does not hold any relevance when confronted with the facts. It is tenuous and unsubstantiated at best, outlandish and laughable at worst. The international community knows better and cannot be duped. Further, consider the following. The school boycott and the imposition of a lockdown to undermine the resumption of schools for the 24-25 school year in the Anglophone regions is another strategy, if it can be called one, that the Ambazonians have persistently gotten wrong. Anyone with even the most elementary notion of world affairs should know, almost by intuition, that the education of children, especially in the context of armed conflict, is a very sensitive issue in international politics. Real freedom fighters like Sam Nujoma, John Garang, Samora Machel, etc. understood it. That is why, during their respective struggles, they went to great lengths to guarantee the continued education of children. John Garang, for one, formed strategic partnerships with countries like Norway, relevant UN agencies and INGOs, to create and operate schools for South Sudanese children in refugee camps. During the 2020 negotiations between the US and the Taliban for the withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan, the Americans demanded guarantees from the Taliban that they, the Taliban, will allow Afghan girls to continue schooling as had been the practice during the US occupation. The Taliban yielded. Today, if you ask any US politician what the US achieved after its $2 trillion, two-decade-long occupation of Afghanistan, they unabashedly say, the right to education of the Afghan girl child. If even the Taliban can understand the intricacies of the children's right to education in international politics, why is it so difficult for the Ambazonians to get it? So, let me say this as clearly as I can. No self-respecting international organization or civilized nation shall ever deal with or recognize a group that uses the education of children as weapon to achieve a political goal. You cannot be asking the international community to uphold your political rights as guaranteed under international law, while you are yourself actively violating with near impunity a fundamental principle of the same international law, the child's right to education. Imposing a lockdown to draw world attention to a non-existent genocide, but which will serve to undermine the resumption of schools in the northwest and southwest regions will not, and cannot, attract attention from the UN General Assembly. In fact, it will have the direct opposite effect. It will attract nothing but indignation and contempt of, and further alienation from, the international community. I'd like to end by addressing this recurrent but fallacious notion constantly parroted by the Ambazonians and some Anglophone Cameroon nationalists alike, namely, that the UN grants independence or granted independence to Southern Cameroons. The United Nations does not and cannot grant independence. Independence is achieved solely through the expression of the sovereign will and desire of a people as freely expressed in a plebiscite, a referendum, or an election. See General Assembly Resolution 1514-15 of December 14, 1960, bearing on the declaration of the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples. So the UN does not grant independence, and definitely didn't grant independence to any of its trust territories, including the UN Trust Territory of Southern Cameroons, which some now refer to as Ambazonia. The UN only recognizes and upholds the independence/sovereignty of a people as freely expressed by them in a plebiscite/referendum or an election. The position of the UN on the Southern Cameroons question, decolonization, is very clear. As far as the UN is concerned, the decolonization process of the former UN Trust Territory of Southern Cameroons ended on October 1, 1961, the day Southern Cameroons achieved independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon, pursuant to the results of the February 11, 1961 plebiscite. All other matters arising therefrom are considered the internal affairs of the state of Cameroon. This position was clearly conveyed by the late UNSG, Kofi Annan, to Southern Cameroon's leaders during a meeting he had with them in IRIC in 2005. Some of the SCNC leaders who attended that meeting are still alive today. So, to me, younger brothers, the Amba boys, if you have been told to attack schools and kill your brothers and sisters so that the UN General Assembly can take notice and come give you independence, you are being duped. You are being manipulated into committing grievous human rights violations, for which you shall be liable. But if you choose to protect school children and guarantee their right to education, you shall earn the respect of both the national and international community. You may even be remembered and celebrated as a hero. It's all in your hands. The author is a serving United Nations Senior Political Affairs Officer.
My fellow Ambazonians, this is Dr. Choyaba once more. I've just read a posting from a certain Julius Fondon, who happens to either be associated with UN or a kind of a scholarly position in some institution. I am responding to some of his claims on the question of genocide and on the question of lockdowns. Let me start with the lockdown. I know that they like to cherry pick some of the postings from political adventurers to establish it as the baseline Ambazonian argument that explains the rationale for certain what we call actions that we impose on the ground. The lockdown that has been called from the 9th to the 23rd has nothing to do with the United Nations. It has nothing to do with the General Assembly. Absolutely no connection. Now let me explain it in simple terms so that everyone will understand. In this war of liberation, we have combined military actions, sovereignty projects, resistance actions like boycotts, lockdowns, sabotage missions in terms of economic sabotage, and other actions like anti-election actions, which is generally situated under the anti-legitimization actions. All liberation struggles have embraced this multitude of actions to challenge the authority of the enemy, undermine its policies and actions, to delegitimize their political authority, which is important in their international claim for power over a sovereign people. So it is not new. We are not creating new strategies. These are all strategies that have been used. Martin Luther King used boycotts, either bus boycott or actions in buses like Rosa Parks did to refuse to sit in front, to sit behind the bus. And people might have asked, oh, why not just sit behind the bus? It takes you to the same destination, right? Sometimes dignity matters. You know, we find a few kids in the United States blacks were denied the right to go into certain schools. People would ask, oh yeah, why must you mingle in their own schools? You know, why not just create your own schools and get along? Why endanger the lives of children to be policed in predominantly white schools where you have 3 blacks in the United States? That would have been the argument being made by some Ambazonians today. Because the easy way out is the most convenient for most Ambazonians, or these loud weaver birds. Now, I give these examples for you people to know. In Soweto, you had a Soweto uprising of students who stood up. We have in certain countries, prisoners have been able to rise up in jail. Any of you who've read the Birmingham jail letter from Martin Luther King Jr., where he was attacked by fellow preacher men and women for taking actions that endanger the lives of people. And he responded, and I recommend that most of you should read that letter. You know, and he told them what endangers the lives of people are not the counter actions that people take, you know, are the actions that necessitate those counter actions. Institutionalized segregation, you know, using water cannons on peaceful protesters, turning men into boys, using, you know, dogs on blacks. I also recommend you to read the last letter from Patrice Lumumba to his wife. I understand what it means, even at the point where you're dying, to still be resilient. When most would say, why didn't you just succumb so you should leave? The world today is not what it is because of cowardice. If it was left to Chamberlain, Czechoslovakia would have been sold, Poland, everywhere would have been sold to appease Hitler. And you will never appease bullies. You will never appease tyrants. You give the right hand, they will ask the left. How you deal with bullies is to take them head on, is to challenge them, block by block, you know, policy by policy. That's how you deal with bullies. For 61 years, we've thought you could appease Cameroon, you can appease Biya. Oh, let's just take it. Oh, let's just go for municipal elections. You know, they give you a slap on the face with appointing government delegates. Oh, let's fight for the GCE board. They gave it to you and appointed their own people. Let's fight for university. All administrators became CPDM cohorts. We begged even for federalism, wrote constitutional proposals and sent to them. They transformed debates into large and text debates. A mockery on an entire people. And yet when students rise up from the University of Boya, they send Manawa Bay to show force, who is in charge. Or we should continue to, you know, pussycat behind these people, appease their bullying just because we want to leave. We keep postponing this fight to the next generation just because we want to survive. A few of us with the opportunity escaped the territory and became big men, and they call us bush fallers. You go in down there and you're Lord of the Rings. You live in countries where people bled, where you find cemeteries of hundreds of thousands of people who fought for something, stood for something, died for something. We simply just want to integrate into anything. What a people! What happened to our dignity? What happens to our manhood and womanhood? And so let me go back to the subject matter. He says, the United Nations will not. We didn't call for lockdown against or to draw the attention of the United Nations. There were 3 strategies that we used to draw the attention of the international community, and we've largely succeeded. Self-defense, internationalization that mobilized Ambazonians at the international community to draw their attention to our situation. Targeted diplomacy that is going to talk to policymakers, advocacy groups, advocates for peace and justice, international non-governmental organizations, and non-governmental organizations that deal with issues of crisis. We have largely succeeded. The evidence is there. And all of these scholars are talking now because, you know, we did something. Review literatures in conflict, review literature in nation building, peace building, conflict resolutions, wars. Ambazonia features prominently because of what we have done. Not reviewing history, because of what we have done. Ambazonians go anywhere today now, you feel you have some sense of pride just because you stood up. And that's far more powerful than anything anybody can give you. Far more powerful than somebody dropping $1 million into your account. Walking like a human being, shoulders high, being able to be proud of your identity, yourself, where you come from, and not live your entire life, you know, subterranean, being ashamed of who you are, being ashamed of your language, being ashamed to wear with pride and honor your own national regalia, being afraid to tell somebody where you come from. And that's what we have won. And some people want to make us feel like, you know, this thing is simply about the end game. No, it's a process. Every battle of it, dignity for our people, being able to make the enemy become confused. I mean, we've confused these people. So we didn't call for lockdown because we want to bring in the... No, we think distinction is critical for separation. Distinction is critical. It might look naive, it might look stupid, but it matters. Challenging the authority of the enemy is critical in who is in charge. And that's what sometimes these lockdowns do. We don't start schools in September anymore. We are not answerable to them anymore. Boya does not respond to Yaoundé anymore. That's the point. Every year between June and August, they don't sleep because they have to grapple with the fact that they are not in charge. Every Saturday and Sunday, they don't sleep because they know who is in charge will be determined on Monday. That's power, my people. And you must exercise it. If you have your neighbor who has taken over your house and turned everybody into a plantation worker, and you put a day that nobody is going out, on that day they know you are in action. So to take some postings on some people be claiming that that's the reason for our lockdowns, no. We don't want the intoxication called education being provided by Cameroon. We want skill education. We want education that turns us into assets. And if we have to give up some 2 weeks away from Cameroon start date, good and fine. We have made it absolutely clear. There are more than 30 countries where schools begin in January and February. There are countries where they begin effectively in October. There are certain countries where from August to September is what they call the pre-semester kind of stuff. And real schools begin in October. I studied in the UK, and sometimes that's what happens. We are not reinventing the wheel, my people. So our lockdown in September is to frustrate anything. And this is more important. Sometimes we may not need to lock down. Sometimes we know, whether in issues of taxi drivers, in issues of bike riders, we know sometimes we have said let our people, go about their activities or simply stay home. The enemy has recruited taxi drivers, recruited bike riders, bought bikes and given to people to undermine our authority and our strategy. We know the enemy has flooded our territories when we have banned their own schools. They've done everything to risk children's lives. So that when Ambazonian forces take action, they say, oh, we are attacking students, we are attacking schools. So to prevent these kinds of provocation, we'd rather stay home. Don't risk your child's life. Because in the event that they are protecting the schools, or we want to attack them and somebody is caught in crossfire, you'll be screaming out there. Yesterday morning, they break into the new church primary school and use it as a temporary base because they want to impose an archaic, intoxicating form of education against in Ambazonia. So to write some nonsense and claim we making lockdown to bring the United Nations, no. We didn't carry up arms to fight this regime because the United Nations had not been created. We have argued that for the past 60-something years, the United Nations have failed us. The international community has failed us. And like all other people, we'll have to face the brutality of the enemy. And that's what we are doing. If our actions has drawn their attention and then they want to engage in conflict resolutions and stuff, fine. We will talk and fight. The second point he makes is, to argue, and that's a scholar, to argue that our claim of genocide is undermined by the fact that our people are taking refuge in Cameroon is something I've never heard. Genocide is a legal terminology. It's not a kind of political spin subject to your own interpretation. It's a legal concept. And then he floats around numbers. Genocide is also not about numbers. There are crises where you have hundreds of thousands of people killed. It's not been determined as genocide. But there are others where maybe just 10,000 people are killed and it's genocide. So all these this kind of argument from people who appear to be scholars is deceptive. The Ambazonian case is not going to be the first case. There are thousands of Palestinians who are in Israel. Palestinian Israeli Arabs. The case for genocide in Ambazonia is about what the 1948 convention defines: an attack on a people because of their ethnicity, because of their they belong to a particular national group. And we belong to a particular national group called Ambazonia. And we have proven, as the convention says, to eliminate a people partially or fully for belonging to that national group. What do you constitute this systematic massacre of young Ambazonian adults? It is not only about the killing, it's about the people who form the next generation of a productive society. They are being eliminated. That's a precursor to stopping the growth of that particular national group. If you attack young males continuously, who will be the next husbands? So, or you think that it's about wiping the entire Amazonian nation? What do you think by imposing conditions that lead to their partial destruction, like burning down thousands of villages? What do you call that? It doesn't fit within the definition of the 1948 Convention. When a colonial deal acts on almost 16 villages in Manu to evacuate, what do you call that? And then went ahead to burn down those villages and attack those people. Are they not imposing conditions that may lead to their partial or full destruction? Where in the Genocide Convention do you read about where the victims take refuge as being determinant to whether genocide is occurring or not? Go and read it and tell me. Go read Bogesera versus the ICTR. Go read Kajik versus the ICTY. And see how even 1948 is narrowed down to specific issues that are still seen as constituting genocide. What do you think when we argue that they sterilize people to prevent the birth into that national group? Is that not genocide? Read different cases under the ICCC, under the ICC. Go to the ICTY. Go and read those of former Rwanda. Read specific cases. And then come and tell us that what these guys are doing in Ambazonia is not genocide. Only the idea of imposing conditions that may lead to the partial or full destruction of the people. You're telling us about where Ambazonians settle, as though we are the first people who have settled in the land of those who are victimizing us. You determine that because we want independence, by the fact that we are not killing Cameroonians in Ambazonia will also mean that we don't want independence from Cameroon. It means we like them. What do you think is the effect of more than 60 years of occupation? That there has not been Ambazonians and Cameroonians who have gotten married? Or even if we love Cameroon so badly, we deny us the right to our own nation? And so why are the Scots running away from the English? Or you think Quebecers hate Canadians so badly that, that's the only reason they want independence? My man, we are dummies. Our country is under attack. Our people are being bludgeoned. Our villages are being razed down. Our people are drowning. They will hang even on a snake just to survive. And so don't poke your finger into our eyes with some kind of reductionist kind of ideas. We don't need it. It's not going to stop us. All your floating arguments, you can propagate those arguments on CNN. We have made a decision. Boya no longer answers to Yaoundé. Get me right.
Bazonia. Bazozo. Fellow Ambazonians, if you find this information helpful, keep listening. Learn, understand, and know the truth about the Ambazonian liberation struggle.
Julius Fondong's Lies, Bias, and Dishonest article by Chris Anu. Julius Fondong, a United Nations senior political affairs officer, has recently published an article defending the oppressive LRC government's stance on the conflict in the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, which he refers to as the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Fondong's narrative, however, is deeply flawed and reveals a troubling bias that undermines his credibility. His selective presentation of facts, misrepresentation of issues, and dismissive attitude toward the plight of the Ambazonian people reflect a distorted view that aligns with the oppressive regime in Yaoundé rather than providing an objective analysis of the situation. Biased and dishonest presentation. Fondong's article displays a clear bias against Ambazonia and downplays the severity of the situation in the territory. His assertion that the Ambazonia national lockdown aims to prevent school resumption is a fabrication. The Ambazonian leadership has consistently expressed support for school resumption, provided that the schools adhere to their own standards rather than those imposed by the annexationist government. Fondong's claim is intended to discredit the liberation leaders and justify the LRC clampdown actions. Fondong's denial of genocide in the Anglophone regions is deeply troubling too. He cites figures from the UNHCR to the effect that only 84,000 Ambazonian refugees are in Nigeria. What Fondong does not tell the reader is the fact that this figure is only of those registered by the UNHCR. He doesn't tell the reader that there are thousands of other refugees in Nigeria not registered with UNHCR. And by the way, how about the other thousands in Ghana, Gabon, among others? Fondong mentions that Human Rights Watch reports 600,000 internally displaced persons, IDPs. However, he conveniently ignores the fact that these figures represent only a fraction of the actual displaced population. His own organization, the UN, acknowledges that the number of displaced individuals could be as high as 900,000, yet Fondong dismisses this discrepancy. Genocide definition and context. To understand the gravity of the situation, it is essential to define genocide. According to the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, genocide involves acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. This includes acts such as killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm, and deliberately inflicting conditions designed to bring about its physical destruction. The evidence from the ongoing conflict in Ambazonia, including reports of over 400 villages burned by the Cameroonian military, widespread displacement, and numerous civilian casualties, suggests actions that align with elements of this definition. Fondong's dismissal of these facts and his narrow focus on registered refugees only serves to obscure the broader picture of suffering and violence. Misleading comparisons. Fondong's comparison of the Ambazonian liberation movement with the Taliban is both inappropriate and misleading. The Taliban's restrictions on girls' education were a pre-existing policy unrelated to the Afghan war, whereas the Ambazonian liberation stance on education is directly linked to the ongoing war and their opposition to a country that has been widely criticized for its assimilation policies. Ignoring the roots of the conflict. Fondong's article fails to address the root causes of the conflict, particularly the issues related to education and governance that sparked the war in the first place. The dissatisfaction with the education system in Cameroon, which has long been criticized for its biases and lack of cultural sensitivity, played a significant role in the outbreak of the conflict. Fondong's dismissal of these issues and his failure to critique the Cameroonian government's role in perpetuating the conflict highlight his partiality. Julius Fondong's article reveals more than just a critical stance. It exposes a deep-seated animosity toward Ambazonia and a troubling alignment with the oppressive regime in Yaoundé. Fondong's blatant disregard for the truth and his selective presentation of facts betrays him. His derogatory language and dismissive tone towards the Ambazonian people signal not just a professional disagreement but a profound contempt. This is not merely an issue of differing viewpoints. It is indicative of a broader, more insidious agenda. By perpetuating misinformation and marginalizing the genuine grievances of the Ambazonian people, he implicitly supports the continued violence and repression that characterize the regime's actions. His position as a UN senior political affairs officer should demand impartiality and an unwavering commitment to human rights. However, his narrative suggests a troubling compromise of these principles, possibly driven by personal ambitions or a desire for political advancement. Fondong may well be maneuvering for positions of power and influence, such as ministerial or ambassadorial roles, following his tenure at the UN. In a world where impartiality and integrity should guide discourse, Fondong's work exemplifies the worst of political manipulation. His stance does not merely reflect a personal opinion but rather a dangerous complicity with the forces that oppress and silence the very voices calling for justice and freedom. The global community deserves better from those who hold positions of authority and influence.
Until such voices are held accountable, the suffering of the Ambazonian people will remain a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked power and bias in international affairs. Chris Anu, your comrade in arms. Ambazonia Interim Government.
Lockdown. An aerial denial and usually total war military strategy is as foolish as it gets to be adopted and deployed by what ought to be an invisible guerrilla force. Which naturally begs this part tested, preliminary assumption requirement test. Question: should our Amba freedom fighters in Ground Zero adopt guerrilla war strategies or standard war practices? If the universally accepted assumption is the former, guerrilla war, why should any sane person, presumably an Amba freedom fighters, want to alert LRC as to their likely whereabouts and upcoming strategy? Essentially, like it or not, this is what those stupid lockdown does. You have unwittingly let LRC know you will be at, or around, or soon coming to that lockdown location you have announced is inaccessible to the population. LRC does not even need to rationalize why it's need a martial law imposed in that region as the necessary strategy to address what they had long sold to the world as a law and order matter. After all, since 2017, we stupidly engaged Ground Zero fighting as the disorganized Southern Cameroons groups, who don't even know the concept of guerrilla warfare. No doubt, it became but competition to dominated Ground Zero between these Amba groups that motivated their strategies and not the art of war. The later would have naturally compelled everyone to obey the rules of warfare wherein effective power is the guide. Our RQ has not option but to abandon the momentumist ideology that is 100% responsible for all these three stupid strategies. 1. Recutting ghost towns. 2. School boycotts. 3. Lockdown. We have wasted another year 2024, arguing and rationalizing the consequences of the let us just continue to sustain the momentum ideology that successfully sold mediocrity as excellence to the ever-unsuspecting people of Ambazonia. The SRT. Single reason theory. Cause of all the problems in the Ambazonian RQ is the prevalence of the anti-sovereignty momentumist ideology. The day our noble RQ abandon this stupidity incubator at the same time we adopt the power-detonating sovereignty doctrine, is the day La République du Cameroun will know the end is around. The world will equally finally get to know of a war of liberation that has been engaged by the Republic of Ambazonia. Let's stop this ongoing stupidities in our RQ of fighting without power as the now proverbial confused groups of Anglophiles Southern Cameroonians. Edwin Gang, August 2nd, 2024.
Our entire movement is chaotic and reactive in nature. There are key issues/sectors that underpin and demonstrate the so-called marginalization of Ambazonians by LRC, which are very obvious. And I am yet to see any group genuinely engage with stakeholders and analyze these sectors enough to even be seen as speaking on behalf of those directly affected by the sector's activities. Education is one of such sectors. When every school resumption date approaches, our groups jump up and start trying to dictate resumption dates and all these things. The question is, how many of these groups have actually, over the last 7 years, done stakeholder engagement and education sector analysis? Looking at the issues around our marginalized educational system, what issues did teachers stand up for in 2016 that have been addressed, and which haven't been addressed? What has the education deficit in our communities been over the last 6 years of the crisis? And how do we, as a people, plan to make amends for that in future educational plans? Critical thinking is like pregnancy. If you demonstrate critical thinking in your thought process, it becomes really difficult for any reasonable person to not see that your thoughtfulness and process are for the best interests of those you are claiming to speak for. But all our groups fall short of this simple demonstration that enough thought is being put into some of the decisions we push around and try to force on our people of Southern Cameroons. Shifting from education, another very visible area is the multitude of our people who have been displaced by the crisis, becoming refugees, and the majority going through so much difficulty as undocumented immigrants across the world. We have a genuine crisis that has caused unplanned displacement of our people. And there are clear programs and tools that, as groups, we could have dedicated some time and worked to establish clear documentation and resettlement plans for our displaced people around the world. But no, we leave them to suffer by themselves, and when they finally try to find a way, we say people are not supporting the struggle. Why should they support the struggle if they don't see how the struggle is there for them during their tough times? Every few months, human rights NGOs like Crisis Group, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty will put out humanitarian reports on the crisis back at home for the last 6 years. Whenever those reports come up, those who bother to even read them reactively jump up and down, and a few up Twitter, criticizing how biased to our plight those reports are. We all know that at the end of the struggle, when decisions for the future will be made, those reports on the crisis done over the years will be the facts that will be looked at. Yet, for 6 years, no Ambazonian group has learned how international human rights reports are done and written a single one that favors our narrative, or even commissioned expert writers to write some that will be our own counter-narrative to the biased reports out there. I could spend my entire morning elaborating on how we have left a lot of very easy-to-get-done things to chance over the years, which demonstrates how unserious we are. But will it make you or our groups change for the better? This thing is simple. As Ambazonians in the diaspora, we mobilize ourselves as local communities where we reside, focus on key things that can be done to enhance the struggle and our people's plight, align with other communities that also mobilize themselves around the world to get important things done, hold group members in our communities accountable for things their groups advocate for, and do that are clearly against our people's welfare, and really, in all, reimagine the raison d'etre for our struggle and try to put some wheels back on the right way. Comrade Derekia, Ambazonian Progressive Caucus, September 4th, 2024.
Julius Fondong aka Simon Munza Jr. by Marcus F. Abendam, journalist at large. I just read a document circulating on social media titled, "The So-Called School Resumption Lockdown. Why Cameroon's Separatists Keep Getting It Wrong." The document authored by a certain Julius Fondong, an ENAM-trained Cameroonian civil administrator and presently a senior political affairs officer at the United Nations Congo Mission, has for purpose the dissuasion and discouragement of people from the Ambazonian independence quest and the encouragement of the ongoing pogrom/genocide, but the author's real, hidden agenda is to seek promotion within the structures of the United Nations system whose General Assembly will be presided by Cameroon's Philemon Yang, beginning September 2024. This is my interpretation of the thrash hurriedly scribbled by Julius Fondong or given him to byline. Read my arguments below. Firstly, it is clear that Mr. Julius Fondong bylined a document which was dictated or written by someone in the Yaoundé establishment. Evidence of this assertion is the fact that Mr. Fondong makes reference to the lockdown declared by the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, stating that the lockdown is meant to disrupt or stop school resumption, whereas that is not the case. 1. The lockdown earlier declared to run from September 2nd to 9th and now adjusted to run from the 7th to the 17th of September is not intended to stop school resumption or to block schools from operating in the territory. The position of the Ambazonian government on schooling is clear. The government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is not against schooling on the territory, but it cannot guarantee the security of children. Consequently, the decision to send children to school or not relies on parents after they must have assessed the security situation of their specific vicinities. This is the position of the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia for more than 5 years now. With such a clearly conceived and enunciated position from the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, why is Mr. Julius Fondong lying, and for whose benefit? It should be noted that no group in the Ambazonian struggle is against schooling in the territory, so it cannot be said that Julius Fondong got mixed up. The well-informed Julius Fondong, senior political affairs officer at the United Nations, cannot be oblivious of the many attempts made by the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia to UNICEF, the UN specialized agency in matters of education to help Ambazonian refugee children and IDPs in Nigeria and on the territory acquire education? What effort has the senior political affairs officer made, even as a concerned international civil servant of Southern Cameroon's origin, to get the body for which he works to help his own people in distress? 2. The real objective of the said lockdown is to send a strong message or reminder to the 2024/2025 United Nations General Assembly that resumes on September 10th about the continuing genocide in Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Mr. Julius Fondong, Senior Political Affairs Officer at the United Nations, in trying to refute the fact of genocide, uses the destination of fleeing Ambazonians to justify his aberration. Having worked with the United Nations in conflict areas, Julius Fondong should be accustomed to victims of war escaping bullets by taking refuge in the nearest available area, even in enemy territory where they most often get trapped. Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General, defined genocide as the killing of a person because of who he is, not because of what he has done. That is what is happening in the Southern Cameroons at the moment. People are being killed because they are Southern Cameroonians. Civilians, babies, children going to school, returning from school or in school are killed by Cameroonian soldiers in cold blood for wanting to be who they are. Julius Fondong, who apparently suffers from selective amnesia, does not remember that many international organizations and eminent journalists and observers have described what is happening in the Southern Cameroons as genocide, the most recent being a TV5 Monde panel earlier this year. In a bid to put pressure on Ambazonians to capitulate, LRC-trained soldiers have killed thousands of civilians, and Mr. Julius Fondong, who seems to have exact documentation and figures, deliberately avoided it. The Kwakwa, Pinyin, Ngarbu, Bali, Babanki, and other massacres, the Ikondo TT and Kumba school shootings were all perpetrated by LRC soldiers and not by Ambazonian separatists. Julius Fondong knows this very well but avoided mentioning it. 3. Fondong quoted Kofi Annan as telling SNC leaders in IRIC Yaoundé that the decolonization process ended for Southern Cameroons in 1961, as if to say the chapter is closed. Logically, Namibia, Eritrea, and East Timor should have been told that their independence/decolonization processes ended the day they were attached to South Africa, Ethiopia, and Indonesia respectively. The three above-cited countries are independent today thanks to the United Nations. If the UN conducted referendums that led to independence, then it can be said that the UN granted them independence. Yes, it does grant independence and will soon do so for Southern Cameroons because its decolonization process did not go through as prescribed by Resolution 1608 and because its own charter was violated. Worse, Julius Fondong claims that independence can only be acquired through referendums and plebiscites, but that is not true. Southwest Africa, now Namibia, got her independence through The Hague and not referendum or plebiscite. The ICJ advisory ruling of June 21, 1971, in rectifying the calamitous wrong done to these people by attaching them to South Africa, asked the latter to withdraw from the territory. Consequently, Namibia held elections in 1989 which SWAPO won, securing majority seats in the Namibian parliament, leading to independence in 1990 without a referendum or plebiscite. Julius Fondong should know better. As a political affairs officer in an organization whose modus operandi is diplomacy, characterized by double-speak and codes, Mr. Fondong should know that the venue to convey a contrary message about the independence of Ambazonia was not IRIC Yaoundé. Fondong's deliberately biased communication ignored the ruling of the African Commission, which recognized the Southern Cameroons as a people with a territory and a culture and requested Yaoundé to dialogue with them. He ignored the fact that an earlier Southern Cameroons delegation to the UN had been told to fight if they really wanted independence. Even in Manhattan, such a message could only be conveyed in the corridors and not around the table. 4. In his attempt to dissemble and mislead, Julius Fondong failed to make allusion to the visiting UN mission to Yaoundé in 2010 during the Golden Jubilee celebrations of LRC's independence. During the visit, the Abutrika-led delegation handed over 2 maps to President Paul Biya of Cameroon, the map of LRC at independence on January 1, 1960, and the map of Southern Cameroons. This wasn't a very veiled communication even by United Nations/diplomatic standards. Do these facts of history not mean anything to Mr. Fondong? If the matter is this clear, why did Julius Fondong set out to disgrace himself? Certainly, Mr. Philemon Yang has set his plan, Yaoundé's game plan, rolling, to use international civil servants of Ambazonian origin within the UN system to thwart the ambitions of their own people in exchange for crumbs, promotion. Yaoundé did it in the past with the erstwhile firebrand Southern Cameroons activist, Simon Munzu, and fractured the struggle. They are at it again, but this time with a very dim-witted fellow political affairs officer at the United Nations. Yaoundé still believes that it can use Ambazonians to thwart the legitimate aspirations of the territory's peoples, but it is too late. Wait for your elevation, sir, but Southern Cameroons' Ambazonia will happen. The truth is that nobody should ever have expected anything better from anyone trained in ENAM, be they judges, civil administrators, tax collectors, etc. These are trained and formatted to always put their personal interests before the people. ENAM trainees are the reason Cameroon is where it is today, corrupt, rotten, and putrefying. Shame on dissemblers.
Greetings, comrade. Thank you for all the messages you have been sending to me. At this point in our God-ordained struggle, I believe that it is of no use asking ourselves how we got in the hole we are into, because it will not solve our problems. The first thing to do is to stop digging the hole further down before finding the best possible solution to get out of it. The solution to our liberation is in our hands and not in the hands of the international community. What is the solution? We must all mobilize ourselves and the international community to rally behind the peaceful permanent solution which is promoted by Aspire. Ambazonians who aspire to secure and protect the integrity of their revolution. We focus our diplomatic efforts on lobbying the people, governments, and non-governmental organizations to sponsor an internationally supervised referendum exclusively for the people of Ambazonia to exercise their sovereign rights to decide whether to be with La République du Cameroun or not. This is what will end La République du Cameroun's illegal annexation of our country. Not war fighting. I am not saying that we should not defend ourselves. What I am saying is that we should not have war as a solution because we do not have the capacity. If you want to see this happen, give me a call. Stay blessed. Agbor Derek, Senior Advisor, Amba Liberation Struggle, Oslo, Norway.